Hi, I'm Robert Reich, and the subject today is the importance of breaking up and limiting the size of the biggest Wall Street banks. The infamous Troubled Assets Relief Program that bailed out Wall Street in 2008 is finally over. The Treasury Department announced it will be completing the sale of the remaining shares it owns of the banks and of General Motors. But here's the problem. In reality, it's not over. The biggest Wall Street banks are now far bigger than they were 5 years ago when they were considered too big to fail. The 5 largest now have almost 44% of all U.S. bank deposits. That's up from 37% in 2007, just before the crash. A decade ago, the 5 largest had just 28%. In other words, the biggest banks keep getting bigger, and they keep getting bigger because they can borrow more cheaply than smaller banks. That's because investors believe the government will bail them out if they get into trouble, rather than force them into a form of bankruptcy, as the new Dodd-Frank laws makes possible. And this is why it is necessary to limit their size and break up the biggest banks. The Federal Reserve is getting the message, even if the White House and Congress are not yet. A few months ago, Tarullo, the Fed governor who specializes in bank regulation, proposed capping the size of the banks' balance sheets. Some former titans of Wall Street are saying much the same thing. Even Sandy Weil, who created the giant Citigroup, which required $45 billion in TARP loans and asset guarantees, Weil is proposing the biggest banks be broken up. The new Congress may also be supportive, and in a bipartisan way. The new chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, Texas Republican Jeb Hensarling, has been a strong ally of small banks in their push to rein in their bigger rivals, and he has expressed concern about the largest being too big to fail. It's not irrelevant in this regard that the Dallas branch of the Federal Reserve Board, right in Hensarling's home district, has also proposed breaking up the biggest banks. Meanwhile, over in the Senate, Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown is a strong advocate for breaking up the big banks and is now on the Senate Finance Committee. And Elizabeth Warren, scourge of Wall Street, will sit on the Senate Banking Committee. In other words, the timing is right. As TARP ends, and Tim Geithner, the Treasury Secretary who spearheaded it in the Obama administration, leaves office, the White House should throw its support behind capping the size of the big banks as well. There is strong support on both sides of the aisle, and we can't afford another Wall Street bailout. Any bank that is too big to fail is too big, period. Thanks.